Hello. When I was a little girl, I often heard the saying, where there is health, there is wealth. Where there is health, there is life. Where there is health, there is hope. And for a long time, I didn't quite comprehend what all of that meant until when I grew up. I think I'm very old now, yes. Yes. I'm very old now, but when I grew up, I understood what it meant. Because if you have good health, you can do a whole lot of things to keep living well and living life the way you want it. All it takes is for you to take care of yourself. Are you taking care of yourself? That's the question today. Now, we have had a lot of health challenges coming and creeping on us. The very big one for a long time and still raging on is the COVID-19. And every day we have different things coming up on it. And besides that, we've also had monkeypox. And by the way, there are still others that are still on. Maybe at a point in time they are not mentioned. One of them is hepatitis B. I'm told that it is a big deal, and today is World Hepatitis Day. We're going to be treating on all of that, and there are a lot of ladies here with me. We also have a public health expert who will be guiding us and ensuring that we do the right talk and, of course, pass the right message. Let me not introduce them. Did I say let's not introduce? What's your name?
It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm Lynette Equin, and I would like to debunk what you just said. You said you're very old. I prefer to disagree.
I pick and choose what age I bear. Sometimes I'm sweet 16, another time I'm 85.
Very, very, very old is the no for me.
But that was the problem.
Nothing.
Yeah?
I'm saying nothing.
You're not saying anything. Okay, so what's your name?
After you have mentioned it.
Oh, did I?
My name is Vanessa I.
All right. We have a doctor. I'll still let you do your name by yourself.
Okay.
Your name?
Dr. Kede Ibiang. I'm a medical doctor with special interest in public health and sexual and reproductive health.
Okay, medical doctor, public health expert, sexual and reproductive health. Wow, that's a whole lot. All right, so we'll be right back. Let's quickly look at something put together by my winning team. I call them the duo of Dairo and Ada. Let's have it.
Prior to the 28th of February 2020, it seemed that COVID-19 was just a mild disease that only affected a few countries. Unfortunately, that was not the case. These graphs show the course of the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria from its arrival till date. As you can see, the spike started around April and went down when the lockdown occurred, and they have now increased again. As of 27 July 2021, there are 171,324 active cases, 2,134 deaths, and 164,798 recovered. During the lockdown in Nigeria, the curve was flattened and the cases declined. But Nigerians became comfortable after the lockdown ended. The Delta strain was discovered, and as we speak, the curve is going up. How do we get over this? Can we say no to COVID and mean it by ensuring we actually protect ourselves? Mind you, it is just not all about COVID. There are a series of illnesses that can come from bad hygiene and poor public attitudes. On our side, monkeypox is right around the corner.
All right, it's still conversations, and everybody gave their name. I didn't. Now it's about time I told you that. My name is Elizabeth Abai, and we're talking health, especially COVID-19. Now, let me hit Dr. Ibiang. I hope I got Ibiang. Yes, okay. So I have heard about different types of variants. Somebody asked me if this new one is from Delta states. I said no. Why are you laughing? So But that's what you get. Somebody said it originated from Delta State. I need you to clarify us on that.
Wow.
No, it did not. So it's a new strain that has been identified. It's called the Delta variant because of its particular let's say variant. So it has been identified in the lab, and when we type it, type it under the microscope, the Delta variant is what you see. So the previous one that we had was the SARS-CoV-2. So that is the usual COVID-19 that we know. The Delta variant is a newer variant that has been found to be more fatal, has more serious symptoms, especially in people who get to be infected with it.
Okay, and the new variant, does it in any way affect those who've taken vaccine? Or I mean, if I've taken my vaccine, am I immune?
Well, the thing is, even if you have taken a vaccine, you can still be infected with the previous variant, the new variant. You can still get infected. But what the vaccine does is that it reduces the possibility of a fatal reaction. So your body has already mounted an immune response to the virus because of the vaccine that your body has been exposed to. So when you get infected, your body has a history of producing antibodies to this virus. So you do not get to have all of the very serious complications that we see, people that have to be admitted in the ICU and all of those kind of things.
But I'll
So
still
whether
be
or
able
not
to
you're
transmit.
vaccinated, you possibly will transmit. Yes, you will.
Okay, when she said that, my mind went quickly to the days we took measles
Yes.
stuff,
Yes.
and it didn't mean we didn't get measles anymore. But it
Yeah,
didn't
but
kill
the
us.
effect was
Yes.
not as at first
It was not
as
as fatal. You
Yeah.
wouldn't die from it. You might
Okay,
just
and
have
even
skin
those who take
manifestations.
flu shots, I still get a lot of it cold, even when I'm under some shots.
really.
But why is it that Nigerians really don't want to wear face mask?
Well, there was a program that we hosted. It was a December edition, and we're there together. And she said something that really tickled me. She said, when you tell someone not to do something, that's when they actually want to do it. Like, a small child. She was so funny that day, and it was hilarious. Unfortunately, you were not there. She said, you tell a small child, don't touch it, and that's when the child
Goes
is
to
looking at
touch.
you and trying to, touch it. But I think one thing that Nigerians lack is discipline. Uh, with all due respect, I'm sorry, but there was a time where discipline was a part of this nation. We're known for it. But right now, it seems like we kind of let it go. So it would be so good if we imbibe some of those, ethics, because it'll go a long way in helping. So discipline needs to be inculcated all round. All round. You find out that you're training your children to act a certain way, but then they keep coming back from school, and what they say is, Mom, this person's so naughty. He did this, he did that. I'm like, okay, you know what? You don't need to copy that person. That person is learning from somewhere. So discipline has been watered down. I want to believe that the reasons why people are not wearing facial masks anymore is just lack of discipline. That's it.
So beyond even discipline, right? I think a lot of Nigerians still do not believe that
The ignorance.
COVID-19 is a thing.
Yes.
I mean, I've encountered a lot of people who are telling you that, well, maybe outside Nigeria, yes, there are actual cases of COVID-19, but within Nigeria, people think it's a hoax, and okay, the NCDC is just manufacturing numbers to keep us afraid, or some form of method of, siphoning money. So people just think, yeah, let's just wear the face mask because they say we should wear it, but there's no COVID in Nigeria.
I'll talk about myself. I am not wearing it because I already have issues breathing. I have nasal issues already. Now, if I have a mask over my face, I already have a problem breathing normally. And then you now put me in a mask, I will pass out. So I want to believe that there are also others out there who also have issues like that. I've come across a couple of people without the nasal issues too. Because when we breathe in, we breathe out carbon dioxide, which stays and closed in that mask. We breathe it back in. So what we take in is not clean air. So it's actually quite difficult. So for me, that's why you will hardly catch me wear a mask. I would wear it, but for not so long, because I'm actually going to pass out. So I want to believe that's the same reasons why. couple of
for
people.
some, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the mask is actually breathable. So
For
yes,
me,
for
you can
normal
breathe
people.
in and out. I mean,
for
I
normal
have-
people,
carbon
that's why I
dioxide
said.
can pass out
That's why I said for
from-
normal people because
Okay.
I already have that issue. I've
Okay.
tried it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So by the time I wear it, I feel faint.
I
So-
go through the same
Mhm.
thing because
You know-
I have
you know-
allergies and all of that. There's some of the masks that actually give me like rashes, so I avoid the medicated masks, especially the blue one. It's the worst for me. If I put it on, you'll see rashes, and then my breathing almost ceases. Simply because I know that I have allergy issues. So I try to get the ones that have like the designer labels. Those ones are not so treated, so they're more kind, or the ones that are made of cloth. Those ones I can manage, but then even after a while, I have to bring it down. Otherwise, it feels like I'm going to faint. So I want to believe modesty goes a long way. If you're able to sanitize, there are institutions that have uh, huge sanitizing equipment outside. You pass through them and all of that, you could relax. But then when you're in a crowd and you don't know who is beside you, you don't know what they have,
Social
it's only
distance.
wise, yes. And then social distance is not being observed. It's wise to use it a little bit, breathe, and then just take care of yourself. Move away from the people. You can breathe in the supposed clean air and then put it back on. But the key is being conscious of the fact that it does exist and you should be careful. Otherwise, you could just lose your life.
Yeah, true. You know what you just mentioned, and you were trying to whisper it, is if we obey rules and regulation, one of them is keeping the social distance. Being in a crowded place for very limited time, I think it will help because even the doctors, I know that sometimes wearing that thing all day is not fun. It's uncomfortable, right? Sometimes. So if you find time to step out a bit and take a bit of natural air, it will help. So instead of going to drug, I still notice some people go to church and sit in the church service for 2 hours, 3 hours, and I'm like, is God deaf? It's true.
No, he's not.
So
He's
you
not.
can
The
talk
issue
to
of
him in
church
1
service,
minute.
like I tell everybody, we did go to church for over 6 months
Mm-hmm.
and nobody died.
Mm-hmm.
We were at home, we were praising our maker in whatever way we could, worshiping him how we could, in the comforts of our environment, our homes, but nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering why I'm stocked up in church for more than an hour.
It shouldn't be more than 1 hour.
And then I have also noticed that, like you pointed out, there's no more social distancing. We're all
Exactly.
choked
A lot
up.
of churches,
We're all
yes.
choked up. You are in a taxi and madam move, madam shift, and then you are still 4 at the back and 2 in front.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not left for me to say no, I'm not joining this vehicle. I said no to something like this a couple of days ago. I found myself at the back and then I was choky, it was stuffy, and I was like, I beg, I'm not, please, can I get down? And then by the time I alighted, every other person followed me, and then we go into a more spacious, bigger vehicle that had space, and we're fine. So it's not left for you and I to say no to some of these things.
Exactly.
And then when we go, okay, you came in, I didn't hug you. Normally we would hug, but you came in and I didn't hug you. I didn't bother, and you didn't bother as well. That doesn't mean we're enemies. We mustn't hug. We mustn't shake hands.
Incidentally, I didn't notice you didn't hug me.
You see what?
Okay.
See what
So
I'm
you're
saying?
holding your hug.
After COVID, imagine.
After COVID, beyond just COVID-19 and all the other variants that attached to it, there are other things you can get by exposing your body to people, even if it's your family member, because you don't know where I have been, you don't know what I've been doing, and then I come back with all of that and you're hugging, even though knowing you have people around you that you love and people who love you too. We should all try to be careful. But doctor, I know that recently they say monkeypox has always been there, but because of the case in US, Nigerian was identified as having moved in with it. It's been trending for a while. Can I get it by hugging?
No.
So how
First of all,
does
can
it
I know what is monkeypox?
Okay, what is
Like
monkeypox?
chickenpox, but it's way worse.
Well, it is way worse. I mean,
It's
the
way
physical
worse.
manifestations
It's
and the skin
horrible.
manifestations are horrible. So, monkeypox, because your face will probably look like
Yes.
Your face
Yes.
looks like a monkey.
No,
Yes,
you
yeah.
seriously, you look a little disfigured, like you're swollen. My two sons had it.
Wow.
Yeah, so they it was horrible.
Yeah, it is
It was
very
horrible. I
Wow.
Yes, I think they got it from school or just hugging the wrong person.
Yeah. You may
One
not
person
necessarily-
got it and then the next. So I was doing everything in my power not to get it. I served them their food in a secluded place. They want to hug mommy. I said, "Don't worry." It was all over. Like they were crying. It wasn't funny.
So-
Very
so
big
what-
sores.
Can I ask?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
may not
So,
necessarily get it by hugging, but if you are coming in contact with the bodily fluids of an infected
Yes.
person,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
why we are promoting hygiene, safe hygienic practices. So, for example, she said her sons had it, and she was trying to sort of seclude them. So she's serving them food separately, ensuring that she's washing her hands and she's cleaning up the plates that they use to ensure that she doesn't get it as well.
And I didn't get
So
it.
if you are in close proximity with someone and that person is sneezing or coughing, and yes, bodily fluids you can still get.
wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay,
It's
so
horrible.
it's persons, it's like droplets
Bodily
from
fluid. Yes,
sneezing
sneezing,
and all
saliva,
that.
and
can catch
sores,
it.
sores from the wound. Of course,
Well, yes.
sores from the wound.
No, wait, what did you ask?
Kissing.
Oh, okay, how can you kiss
Why would
somebody?
you kiss someone in pain? There are
No,
sores on
no.
the lips.
It's
Would
okay.
you go that far?
So the other part of is it
I think
possible that somebody
what she will probably be asking will be would the person be able to transmit before they have the
Yes,
physical
exactly.
manifestation?
That's
Okay.
my
Yes,
question.
there's usually that possibility, especially with viral diseases.
Yeah.
So before the person starts to manifest symptoms, particularly,
Nigerians, did you hear? No
an
more kiss.
asymptomatic period where
Yeah,
where they can still transmit. So especially for even COVID-19, right? Before you start to feel some of the symptoms that makes you think that possibly you might have gotten it.
Mm.
Before that time, you
You
may
may have
have
transmitted.
infected one or two other people.
That's
Yes.
true.
Which is why once we get exposed, we should always ensure that we wipe out. I always carry my alcoholic wipe
Mm-hmm.
and my sanitizer
It's
to
been
I
a
still have
habit
a
of
question.
mine.
Even before now, we
Yes.
usually advocate that when you get back home after a long day, don't hug your kids or kiss them immediately.
Yes.
Go wash
Wash your
up,
hands.
change your
Wait,
clothes.
how is
and
it
then-
possible that if you have symptoms and you have not manifested, how do you know you have it and then you don't kiss someone?
Wow.
You don't know, you just don't.
no,
you
you
just
just
literally
avoid
don't
it.
kiss
You
it.
just avoid it. You just
So,
avoid it.
should we make placards? And begin to shout,
Because
"No more
now I
kissing."
thought initially I thought it was COVID. Now I'm hearing of monkeypox, and then from what I'm hearing is fluids are transmitting monkeypox. And I think I would now at this point jump into that hepatitis part of it because I know that hepatitis too can be gotten from
Bodily fluid.
That place, yes.
Okay,
no
so
kissing.
okay, so
Placards.
That's
we
like
need
a baby.
placards.
all right, so we'll still visit the monkeypox thing. I know today is World Hepatitis Day.
Yes.
You know, hepatitis we used to think is the father of malaria
Mhm.
and
So
typhoid.
weird how people have that.
Am I the first to say it?
No,
I'm not the
You're
first.
not.
You know,
Actually
in
not.
fact, when you go for a lab test, usually those quack diagnostic centers,
you
have malaria.
Yes.
you know, they will spell out malaria, typhoid, and hepatitis for you,
Really?
and actually suggest sometimes treatment for you. You know, to
It's
go.
horrible.
The first of them is don't take oil. So let's get to understand what is hepatitis.
Okay.
Simple terms, hepatitis is inflammation of the liver, so swelling.
Inflammation of
the
the
liver.
liver. That's the organ inside.
Yes.
What does the liver do in the body?
That's
Detox.
toxins,
That's
it's-
toxins,
yeah,
And-
produces bilirubin, which helps to break down
Nutrients
enzymes, nutrients.
and distribute.
Okay. So how do we get it? I was told if you eat too much red oil,
You will get hepatitis.
you get hepatitis.
Impossible. Impossible.
No, those are myths.
Now, sorry, is
A
it
lot of
possible that you could from malaria you could get hepatitis?
Is
That's continuous. That's
impossible.
continuous presence of malaria parasite in
okay,
your
so
system.
for that, right, there are non-viral causes of hepatitis. So
Okay.
the liver could be inflamed by medications, toxins, alcohol,
Alcohol.
abuse.
Mm.
So malaria affects the liver, but constant malaria, like you say, except maybe I don't know who's having malaria every 2 weeks or
Oh,
every week.
No, some people
genotype.
do.
some people have- I know of
but
somebody.
not as
Yes, there she is. I know of somebody. I'm
Okay.
sure this is their season.
still it's
Mm.
very unlikely that constant malaria will lead to hepatitis.
I'm even talking about the percentage of malaria in the system. You know, when you run the tests, you have the 2+, 3+.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have so much of it in your system, which does it get to affect the liver?
No, your liver is not inflamed, although the malaria trophozoites are housed in the liver. So when you take anti-malarials, they are going to go disrupt the life cycle of the malaria parasite and get you to be well. But no, it doesn't cause hepatitis.
So what are the ways we can contract hepatitis?
So it differs based on the type of hepatitis. We
Okay.
are usually seeing
There's
hepatitis
ABC.
B, but there's A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
Oh,
Colony
okay.
Yes.
hepatitis.
And then there is non-viral hepatitis,
Non-viral.
which are caused by toxins, alcohol abuse, and medications, like I said. So
Which is
hepatitis
still
B
different
is
from liver
focused
cirrhosis.
on particularly because it has a vaccine. It's preventable.
Which one now?
B.
B, okay.
Yes, it has a vaccine. It's preventable. And if you have hepatitis B virus, you are exposing yourself to co-infection or superinfection with hepatitis D. So usually if you have a co-infection of that sort, that's what predisposes you to having liver damage and lead to liver cancer. So we emphasize on hepatitis B particularly because of that. But the other forms of hepatitis are equally as important because hepatitis A also has a vaccine. We don't shout it that much because, well, maybe because some developing countries have improved on hygienic conditions at all. But hepatitis A and E are transmitted fecal-orally. So if you're taking food or water that is infected or has been infected by bodily fluids of someone, or the feces of someone who has hepatitis A and E, you can get. But B, C, and D, bodily fluids. So if you are using a sharp instrument that has been used by someone who is infected,
Like when you
if
go to the dentist and it's not
all
quite
of those
sterilized.
invasive procedures, whether
Okay.
you're
Or you
getting
go
just an
to like
injection,
women we go to
razor
fix our
blades,
hair.
yes, all
And
of
the
those,
needle,
the
they
needle
just
they are
trim.
using to, yes, all
Yeah,
of
and even
that.
haircuts.
You're not
So
even talking
the
of the manicure, pedicure, manicure.
That's what she's talking about.
So all
So
those
that
things they do.
Yeah.
the
Even
critical
when you go,
remover,
like, haircuts,
yes, all
yes.
of those. If someone who has been infected has that instrument has been used on the person and not properly sterilized, you could get hepatitis B, C, or D from that. Although hepatitis D is not very usually transmitted through that manner, but yes, so unsafe sharp instruments and then blood transfusion. That is why we are advocating
Blood
for
screening.
screening of so we screen blood for all the 5 hepatitis viruses. Yeah. And
Including
then,
HIV.
yes, people who use injection drugs, and also through unsafe sexual practices. So if you are sharing bodily fluids with someone who is infected with PCOD positive.
Okay. Now, when you mentioned the blood and the fluid and transmission, another thing came to my mind. You know, back in the day, someone told me that it's easier for you to, avoid getting HIV/AIDS than to avoid getting hepatitis B. I asked why. He said if the blood that contains the HIV/AIDS stuff is dropped on a table or a bench or something or surface generally,
The virus
within some
dies
hours
after
it
exposure.
dies because
Yes.
there's no host
Yes.
to feed on. But that of hepatitis B can actually stay even when the blood seems dry. If it's not cleaned, it can actually stay for hours,
Longer period
days,
of time.
and then if I come in with an open wound and touch the place, it goes back and feasts on me. How real is that?
Yes, it is true to an extent
Okay.
because the hepatitis virus is not eliminated by the usual way we will eliminate other bacterial and viral pathogens. Hepatitis B virus is a little more difficult to eliminate. So like you said, for the HIV virus, it needs a host to survive. So when it is outside the human body and it is in that sharp instrument for a long time, it is inactivated. So even if you get that, does not mean you can start the sharp spots. Yes, it's true to an extent.
So if I have to stay in a surface, I must make sure that I clean properly. How do I clean properly?
Bleach.
What do you mean by a surface? So
Maybe like I want to
Around the
wipe this
surface.
table now before
Yeah, the
because I could be
usual
touching the table
Hepatitis, for hepatitis.
for hepatitis now.
the usual antibacterial
Antiviral
alcohol
sprays.
containing.
Oh,
yes,
okay,
you can
okay.
use that
Bleach is
to
very
wipe.
good.
Yes. Although, I mean, if you don't have a break in skin or mucosa and
Please,
you
which
touch,
woman cooks without a break in your finger? Once you enter kitchen, there's always a break.
well, yes.
Noticeable and
Intact
non-noticeable.
skin, very unlikely. But the problem is, even with intact skin, you may touch and then touch your eyes,
Mhm.
your nose, or your mouth.
So basically, with hepatitis 2, we're still doing the same COVID, no touching eye, nose, mouth.
Mhm.
It's not exactly the same
Tight.
because it's not everybody that is carrying hepatitis
No,
around.
but like we're talking about surfaces now.
Yes.
You don't know what that surface has touched or has been on
So
that
maintain
surface.
good
So
hygiene.
basically, what we're trying is
Yes,
it that
maintain good hygiene practices. Yes,
Maintain good
that's
hygiene.
what's
You know, my
Essentially-
parents taught me as a little
parents are
child.
medical people.
Yes. They taught me to always wash my hands. As soon as you get in,
Mhm.
you'd enter the bathroom, the guest toilet, and wash your hands there. You leave your bag by the door, wash your hands there before you even get into your bedroom. And then after, you go take a shower, change before you eat. So that became part of my lifestyle.
Okay.
So all the new things people are supposedly learning, I grew up with it. So for me, it comes naturally.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just, if I enter a place, the next thing I'm looking for is a sink. Is there a sink around? Can I get, I have liquid soap. Are you checking for liquid soap?
What's sanitizer?
So it became a culture. And for me, a part of life. So if we can actually imbibe these practices, they help. I have allergies, I'm allergic to dust and mold. So I stay away from those kind of places. Now, catching a cold would come very natural if I just let myself go. But because I could, imbibe those practices, I could stay a whole year without getting a cold. And then, of course, vitamin C. Every single day for me is a day of vitamin C. I
Definitely.
keep my immunity up.
How many mg do we take? Do we need? in
I
a
take
day?
1,000 milligrams.
It's
Okay.
1,000 milligrams. I would always say that you cannot overdose on vitamin C because your
Simple.
body absorbs what it needs and excretes the rest.
Simple.
Okay.
Urine. So just take as much as you can.
Yeah.
As long as you're having citrus fruits and vegetables, you should have enough supply of vitamin C. But it's not a bad idea to supplement with tablets.
Okay.
And let me quickly ask another question. I'm asking these questions because I feel these will be questions Nigerians will want to ask you. Now, when we talked about getting hepatitis from body fluids, which includes saliva, I'm sure it will be fair to say that sharing a cutlery set, that's a spoon, with someone gives you hepatitis. That's if the person has it.
Yes. Somebody who is infected and has an ongoing infection.
Ongoing.
So yes, there is an active a good number of people, I wouldn't say most people, especially for hepatitis A and E, it's a short-lived period sort of. So the person has an active period of infection where their body is mounting an immune response and trying to fight the virus, and then within 2 to 6 weeks for A and E, you don't necessarily have to give a specific form of treatment. The body will mount an immune response and shed the virus. Yes, so within that period of active infection where the person has their bodily fluids containing the virus, yes, you can get it from. So the person's saliva is on the cup or on the cutlery, and yes, if you use it, there's a possibility that you can get it.
What are the layman symptoms of hepatitis?
Okay, so nausea, vomiting, but what will particularly tilt your mind towards hepatitis is that you notice that your stools are pale, your eyes are yellowish.
Stools are pale. What is the meaning in
Pale.
English?
So
Your stool
usually your
has
stool has
different
color,
colors,
right?
weight,
Probably
texture.
dark, yeah, sort of. So when your is really pale, I mean like yellow, sort of.
Ish.
Yes, we're trying not to be too gross.
Exactly.
But yes, so pale stools, I think you will notice because usually you should know the color of your stool.
Is it
I
a
know
brown?
now.
Yes,
comes
you
to
should.
So
yellowish
basically,
all
you're
the
trying to say
time.
when I go to the loo, I get up and I'm looking at
You
my
should
stool.
actually, you
check.
need
check.
to because
Yeah.
you could possibly.
But if it's
when you
floating,
have-
you
yeah.
have less water in your system.
So what if he sinks?
If it sinks too low,
You
there's
might still
some
see the
bacteria
color.
or something. Yeah.
Ah.
So
If
yeah,
it sinks, you still
if
see the
it's
color.
too soft,
Because when you
there's
come, when
still a
you
problem.
you come with some kind of symptoms and they're asking you, have you looked at your stool? Has it been recently? Did you notice any blood in stool? If you're not looking
You
at your
need
stool,
to
you
check.
I
don't
think
know.
those two needs to start taking selfie now.
no, seriously, like
Obviously, cast the only way I can compare what it looks like today from yesterday.
No.
In your mind, I'm
there's
sure you have a
term.
picture of what it should look like.
Picture.
So there's
Selfie.
a term,
Call
there's
it
a term
selfie.
called well formed, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
well formed. too.
well formed too. So just learn.
Kill.
All right. Apart from that, so we're trying to find out what should be getting us alarmed.
Yes, so nausea, vomiting, abdominal discomfort, I said pale stools, yellowing of the eyes is what usually will bring most people to the hospital because, well, I'm not trying to shade Nigerians, but where change is too, people don't really pay that much
We
attention.
don't go to hospital.
I know we don't. We don't. And even when you see some of these symptoms, they're like, yeah, it will pass
will
over.
clear.
It
I'll
will
drink
clear.
agbo.
Aha. So for most people, that yellowing of the eyes is what brings them to the hospital. So people are telling you that your eyes are really looking yellowish, and then it keeps getting more and more yellow, and that's what brings most of them to the hospital.
Would your skin be yellowish as well? That's what's
For
called jaundice,
adults,
right?
yes, it's jaundice. For adults, not very likely, especially because a good number of adults are dark, so you may not see yellowing very much. You would mostly see yellowing of the skin in children because you can blanch the skin and you will see the yellowing because their skin is still very tender and it's easy for the color to show. But in adults, you may not really see yellowing on the skin. It's mostly the eyes. Yes.
All right. The next thing I want to know is usually some people tell you, I've been treating this for, so long. How long does it take, especially hepatitis B? How long does it take to really flush out from the system? Some people tell you, I've been doing this since 1 month. I went for a test and resurfaced and all that. Is it not curable?
Let me quickly add to that before you answer. I read something somewhere where somebody said it took draining of her son's spinal cord to get hepatitis out of the system. That's what I don't know. You're here. That's what I'm asking. That's why I said let me quickly ask that. So, is that part of how to get it out of the system? And like she asked, how long does it take to flush it out?
Yes. So accumulation of fluids will mostly happen in the abdominal cavity. So if you have hepatitis, you could have hydroperitoneum. Well, it's just essentially fluid accumulating in your abdominal cavity in your organs. So if that happens, there will be a draining. But draining the spinal cord, did you say the spinal cord?
Yes.
I don't know. No.
Maybe there was
So
something
treatment
else.
course depends on which of hepatitis you are treating. Yes, for hepatitis B, it is not curable, but it is treatable.
Wow. It's not curable.
Yeah.
So that means once you contract it, you're going to be managing it like diabetes?
No, not exactly. So a number of people will have an active infection where they show the symptoms, you have the abdominal discomfort and all of that. You may not progress to a chronic infection, but people who progress to a chronic infection are the ones who may now have inflammation of the liver that will progress to liver cirrhosis and possibly permanent, like full-time liver failure and maybe liver cancer. Yes, but for that chronic infection is the one that requires aggressive treatment. So the treatment can extend anywhere between 12 to 48 weeks.
12 to 48 weeks. That's huge. Almost
Yes.
1 year.
Yes. For
Almost like
some other, for some other of the various the forms of hepatitis, probably 12 to 24, 26 weeks. Yes, but it's a long-term treatment of some sort.
All right. Today is World Hepatitis Day, and it's designed to create awareness, on issues around it. What are those daily things we do wrong that could predispose us? I know that you said droplets of our body fluid could be a cause. Are there ways we also can, bring it closer to ourselves? Lifestyle changes,
Yes,
I mean.
of course. So for viral hepatitis, hygiene practices, again, wash your hands when you go out, when you're coming back in, wash your
Who's
hands.
washing hand there?
No, it's
Fingerprints
very
go soon lost.
When you wash, you can always, complement with a hand gel or some form of hand cream just to keep your hands moisturized. But yes, wash your hands and source of water and food. So if you are drinking water that has been infected so you have to be sure of the source of water.
Yeah.
If you're having water at home, and if you have to drink water outside, you should possibly stick with the known brands that you can be sure of quality control with those
Exactly.
brands. And then if you're having food outside as well, you have to be sure that it is properly cooked food.
What does
because
that mean? Because the salad is raw.
it
Yes.
is usually advised that if you buy fruits, you take it home and wash it yourself.
Mm.
Yes, because you can't vouch for the water that has been used to wash the fruit, whether the fruit was washed well. That salad that you are taking, you don't know where the person washed it.
You know you're doing bad business for food vendors.
Unfortunately, yes, but it has to be done.
Exactly.
I was going to say, just took it out of my mouth.
All right, so
Yes.
does it help if we add a bit of salt or
When washing
vinegar
fruits, yes.
when we're washing our
Yes,
fruits?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Someone
salt,
told me
vinegar.
that he actually uses soap to wash his apple
So,
and then rinse with salt water.
I've done that with clean.
yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Some people do
I have.
well because apple has a skin and it wouldn't absorb the
Exactly.
soap. But just stick with salt to be on the safe side.
Side.
Salt and water. You can do warm water, salt and warm water, and wash properly before you eat.
Okay. So if we need to blanch our vegetables, does it help to also reduce?
Blanch them when cooking.
Yes, when before you eating them, the raw ones like broccoli.
That would lose a lot of nutrients
You
in the
will
process.
lose, yeah, you will lose.
So you just
nutrients.
end
But
up with
water and
fiber.
salt, especially for broccoli, if you do not want to boil, yeah, you can just wash with water and salt, soak for a bit, wash it and rinse it. You can use it.
All right, my director says I should go on a break for now. When we come back, there's a whole lot to learn. You'll be amazed. The daily lifestyle we live. All those people that go on the road and, hey, banana, bring it. Yeah. Think about your health. Let's go on a break now. All right, conversation is still on, and we're talking about you and I. What is paramount? Health. Because if we lose it, every other thing is down the drain. And I'm going to keep quiet and munch my biscuits for now, and let the doctors and the ladies do their talking. So you were going to say something, Vanessa?
Yes. She mentioned something about red oil earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've heard where if you're found with hepatitis, you're undergoing hepatitis treatment, you should stay away from oily foods, salts, and the likes. Now, I'm asking you now, what should we and should we not do when you are undergoing hepatitis treatment?
I think the only rationale behind telling people who have hepatitis and are undergoing treatment to stay away from oil is because the liver is already compromised, and that is what we usually process fats and cholesterol. So it's best for you to keep that away for now, just so that you're not overstressing the liver that is already compromised. Yes. But apart from that, just a few medications that you would usually be advised to use sparingly or stay away from them when undergoing hepatitis treatment, or when you have an active hepatitis infection. So we will advise that you stay away from paracetamol, that's acetaminophen. Yes, and also stay away from some antiemetic drugs. I mean drugs that prevent you from vomiting, because they are active. They usually are synthesized in the liver, they're active in the liver.
So we talked. I was talking about activism against kissing. You guys were laughing at me, but the truth is, like she rightly said, bodily fluids.
Yeah.
Which one of it is the saliva? You get that through kissing. Then you talked about
It's a very small
setting.
percentage anyway.
Okay, small
for-
percentage.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
you talked about certain sexual practices like
So particularly oral anal sex. So using your mouth around the anus of somebody who has
bad
hepatitis.
brackets.
Yes. So you would usually see that it is advised that people who are use dental dams. If you must have oral anal sex, use dental dams. But as much as you can, just try to stay away from that. But apart from that, use of the usual use of condoms, because yes, you are creating a barrier between yourself and the bodily fluids of the other person, so that prevents you from getting in contact with that person's bodily fluids.
All right, I've heard too many people say, I'm beyond malaria, I'm beyond this, I hardly get it, I suffer it maybe once in a lifetime, and all that. Me, I know. We're friends, malaria and I. And we've accepted our friendship. Now, are there people who are predisposed to contracting hepatitis, B, C, or even the Z one? I don't know.
There are risk factors to contracting hepatitis, some forms of hepatitis. So the ones that are transmitted via bodily fluids, especially sexual bodily fluids. Yes, risk populations are commercial sex workers, men who are having sex with men, and
commercial sex workers.
Yes,
the homosexuals. That's the gay.
Yes, and people who have multiple sexual partners and are not using protection with those multiple sexual partners.
So it's more like HIV/AIDS now, and they'll be accusing.
They're all viruses.
They're all viruses. There are just 4 viruses that are not curable.
Okay.
Yeah, so HIV/AIDS, herpes simplex, hepatitis B virus. Yeah, we said it's incurable, treatable.
Is it hereditary?
No.
Hepatitis.
No, it's not. But it is commonly transmitted from mother to child during childbirth.
During childbirth, or while the person is in the pregnancy.
Perinatal.
Oh, okay.
Yes, during childbirth.
So if a mother has it, the safest way to deliver is CS, right?
Not necessarily, no. If a mother has hepatitis B and you discover, maybe for people who did not have antenatal consultations, and you discover at the point of birth that this mother has hepatitis B or whichever of the forms of hepatitis, what you need to do is to vaccinate the child as soon as the child is born. So hepatitis B particularly, it's advocated that the child is vaccinated within 24 hours of birth, and then the next 2 doses.
Is that the same thing as the BCG or something?
No, it's
no,
different.
BCG.
Okay.
BCG is for
tuberculosis.
Can I beg you for a slight diversion? You are sex expert.
Sexual and reproductive health.
Okay. Sexual and reproductive health.
That's why I asked for correction now.
I'm giving therapy for
sexual and reproductive health expert. Okay, Staphylococcus. What is it? Quickly. That's why I
Nigerians have bastardized.
Exactly. Yes. That's why I use this opportunity to let's quickly divert a bit and let's talk about that. Just maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, so staph is usually on the skin. So when I hear people saying that staph causes irregular menstruation, this and that, all of those things, come and take this, everything will clear with staph, I don't understand it. Because Staphylococcus really causes some bacterial infections, but it's not the way we make it out to be. And I feel like a lot of these people who are selling this one drug cure all, are doing this because of course they have to sell. When you mention a big name, Nigerians are scared. Oh, Staphylococcus. No, I don't.
Because I've known that it's not that.
It's not that deep.
And then
do you know the culture of Staphylococcus is used in yogurt? Am I wrong?
In yogurt, I really
check. Check. I'm not going to mention any brand, but I've checked and I've seen a couple of them. Some of these yogurts in sachets. Check the content, and you see the culture of it.
Yeah, they will usually use some bacterial culture. I don't know if it is staph.
Now,
I have seen it.
There's another one where it's not killed by antibiotics. By all antibiotics. I don't know how to frame the question, but something about staph not being cured by antibiotics. So you go taking antibiotics is not gonna work. Something like that.
Usually, when people tell you that staph caused an infection, they can't really point what infection that is, because what exactly are you treating if you are taking antibiotics? We have misused and abused antibiotics in Nigeria, to be very honest, because people just walk into the pharmacy and say, oh, give me, what's the most common one? Amoxicillin. Give me amoxicillin. Or give me flagyl. I'm treating an infection. Or ampicillin, exactly. And you're just taking those antibiotics blindly Because
any
if
culture
you
or
act,
anything,
yes, you haven't had a blood culture, you haven't seen what antibiotics these organisms are sensitive to or resistant
resistant
to, and you have no idea what you're doing, you're just swallowing antibiotics. You don't know what you're doing. You haven't.
You're
You're
just
not
damaging
sure
your
whether.
liver.
Yes. So
That's where I was headed. The question came so that I were going to take it all the way to the damaging of the liver and bring us back to the hepatitis we're talking about.
all right. Okay.
So
Yes.
so-
Some medication.
self-medication, antibiotics, a whole lot of
Self-medication
antibiotics,
is a
consuming antibiotics, because that's the most common one.
Drugs
Is
in
either we're
general.
walking,
Yeah.
is that either we walk into the pharmacy and we're give me antibiotics. There's this one that is as low as 15 naira a card.
Are you
That
serious?
should be
Yes.
Flagyl, I think, or one of them.
Anyway, I recall the COVID period. We had a lot of people coming to speak on COVID. He said one treatment does not exactly take care of everybody.
Yeah.
It's different persons for different
Yes,
treatment. So a
very
lot of times I
individualized.
find people say, hey, that time you were coughing, what did you drink? And then I tell you what I drank, you quickly go and buy it. My body constitution is
It's
not
different.
the same as
Exactly.
yours, which is why we have different DNAs.
Yeah.
Which is why we have different what do you call it, fingerprints.
Yeah.
In addition
If-
to the fact that what is causing your cough may not be causing the other person's cough.
Exactly.
There are probably hundreds of conditions and medical diseases that are caused that
If
have
I am
cough as a
coughing,
symptom.
I'm coughing because probably I go into an environment and it's stuffy,
And you have allergies.
and then I have allergies
Yes.
already. So I will now immediately react to it. Then we would sit somewhere and I'm doing this. I'm doing this. So that's me responding to something. And then quickly
Exactly.
I'm like, there's something around here that I'm allergic to, that I'm reacting to. So I'm itchy. My nose is itchy. I'm
Did you know
twitching.
that typhoid could make you cough?
Yes.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Typhoid could make you cough.
We used to say this
Because
thing in
you took-
medical school
because
that
you
if
took
they
it
ask
doesn't
you
mean-
for symptoms of almost every time, cough, nausea, vomiting, almost always.
I was
there.
going to say when you mentioned the hepatitis, because
Almost
the
always
symptom
there.
is just the same thing,
Yeah.
So it takes
So you should-
someone
you should
to be
check.
yes.
Yeah, and for the all the forms of hepatitis, there's no individualized symptom that you can say this one is what you can only find out when you do a laboratory test and check for the antibodies or antigens of that particular hepatitis virus.
All right, just before we wrap up, I still want to ask, what are the take home for people with regards to, we have talked about three major things. Let's start from the first one again. The I know they are all linked.
Yeah, we need to
Because-
speak about vaccination.
So okay, the vaccination for hepatitis B, how does it happen? Where can I get it? And how long or often should I take it? I don't know the procedures, but speak on it.
Yes. So for hepatitis B, you would vaccinate a child within 24 hours, or at least within the first 6 weeks of life.
Okay.
And then there are 2 other doses taken 4 weeks apart. So after the first dose, another 4 weeks you have the second dose, and then after another 4 weeks you have the third dose.
And that's for life.
Covers for at least 20 years, but will mostly give a lifelong immunity. So people who have completed the 3 doses of that vaccination will not necessarily need a booster dose in future.
Even
But
adults.
if you didn't, yes,
Even adults.
yes. But if you didn't complete the doses, you should get a booster.
Okay.
Yes, you should get a booster.
Okay. So, and when I take this vaccine, I may be exposed to it, but the effect will not be that much,
Your
or
body
I won't
will-
even get at all. Which one?
The virus will get in quite alright, but because your body has been exposed to a weakened form of the virus, it already has immunity built up and antibodies that have been programmed for that. So you wouldn't have an acute infection, you wouldn't come down with those kind of fatal symptoms that somebody who has not been vaccinated at all would, and you would very likely not progress to a chronic infection.
Okay. All right. So the other ones, how does the vaccine go?
For hepatitis A, there's also a vaccine, so it's given within the first 4 to 6 weeks of birth, and should be completed. There are 2 doses, so it should be completed within 6 months of childhood. Yes, and after that you're covered.
All right. Is there a vaccine for monkeypox?
I'm not aware.
Okay.
Not that I know.
All right. So. Just before we go, my time is almost not as usual. You accused me, you say
I
1
accused
hour.
you now.
Okay,
1
so
hour is not
so
enough.
what's your final take to our viewers just before we leave?
For me, too much hygiene doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Practice good hygiene. check your blood, check your feces, check your urine, check everything all the time. Don't just say, oh, I've prayed and God has delivered me. Check.
Okay.
When was the last time you had a routine check? When was the last time you were in the lab to have blood culture, urine culture, feces culture? When was the last time? And let me quickly chip this in. When was the last time you checked your blood pressure? Because that's the other thing that is dropping
Sometimes
youth left, right, and
I
center.
always think it's disease for
We-
the elderly.
exactly. It's a killer. Blood pressure is a killer. It's a silent killer. You have a headache that is not
That doesn't
is
make
not
sense.
going.
It's not going.
A headache that
Tension,
doesn't
headache.
make sense. A headache you can't place. When
Okay.
last did you check your blood pressure?
All right, so Doc, your final word.
Practice hygiene. Like she said, there's nothing like too much hygiene. Wash your hands, ensure you're drinking clean water, properly cook your food. Try as much as possible not to have water and food from sources that you can't trust. Practice safe sex, of course, condoms, ensure that your partner is screened, and if you are going unprotected, be very sure that it's a mutually monogamous relationship and nobody's stepping
And it's
out.
hard to tell.
It is hard to tell, so you have to protect yourself, and then apart from that, of course, get vaccinated. Very necessary.
All right, I just don't have any other thing to add. All I'll just say is love yourself and live for yourself. If you don't love yourself, please love the people around you and live for them, because the truth is they need you more than you need yourself. That way you stay healthy and live for them. We'll see you again next week. Bye.